All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Not only are we going to talk about the U.S. soldiers that are potentially going to the front line, this is crazy talk coming out of many leaderships of the world, but of course, speaking of tonight at midnight. So if you were wondering what's happening tonight at midnight, JB issues a new executive order. Much of the southern border is to close at midnight. It says there still will be a number of exceptions, including for unaccompanied children, some victims of trafficking, migrants facing acute medical emergencies, or imminent threats to their safety. Of course, the same people who also have an appointment at a port of entry via Custom Border Protection smartphone app will still be processed. So if you have that handy app, then it sounds like you'll still be processed. And not only that, if there's some sort of emergency. So I'm sure if they get turned away, they could just walk around the corner and go, oh, I've got some problem. I don't know how this is actually going to work, but the JB administration is currently processing about 1,500 a day at official ports, and the president's actions will not affect his humanitarian parole pathways established for certain people coming in. The new actions aim to restrict asylum by making a number of changes to the president's Title VIII authority, long-established procedures that allow the government to remove from the country people who are unable to establish a legal basis. People who cross the border unlawfully will be deemed ineligible for asylum absent of compelling circumstances. So we're going to talk about what this means and why this is happening. We actually have talked about this prior to it going into place. This was something that was suggested multiple times. The numbers changed, rearranged, but will this actually help? We'll talk about it in just a moment. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get right into it. Before we do, make sure to bring yourself over to marfooglenews.com to get a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to talk about here today. That way you have an access to all of the articles from today, whether we show you a picture, document, tweet, doesn't matter what it is, it will be over there, and the source will be right at your fingertips. Make sure to also go check out marfooglenews.com/friends, where all of our wonderful mods and friends are. These are other creators that we believe that you should go check out. So if you're bored on a Saturday or something, make sure to go check some of our friends out. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So another reminder, hit the subscribe button if you can. It would really help us out. It's something free you can do, again, that helps us a ton. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So back to this, I couldn't figure out from all of the different pieces out there exactly how long this is for, how long it lasts. We have actually covered this from kind of the idea to the inception to it getting passed around as something that would happen. How much will this actually help?
Yeah, it may all be for show, and it more than likely is. I mean, look, we know what's happening later in the year, but that aside, like what's going to happen next is they're saying the American Civil Liberty Union is going to go after and create a lawsuit just like they did with the other ones, which will then tie this up and potentially cause it to not be put into effect. which may be part of the plan. Who knows? Maybe, again, is it all for show, or is it really something going on here that is trying to change what is happening? We do know that that porous area of our country is just completely flooded nonstop, and the problem really isn't so much the good people; it's the bad stuff that's trickling in, especially from the countries that are harboring it and even trying to bring them in.
And where other countries are on this, European countries are having the same, very similar issues as far as what the policies and people demanding that something be done. This is happening all over Europe as well. Some of the countries like Poland and others, the multiple stories of just them closing straight up, not letting anybody in for periods of time, closing almost all of their entrances, having 1 out of 12 open, this kind of thing, or not letting certain people from certain countries in at all. As far as this goes, some people are saying, hey, that should be kind of what we're doing right now, considering all of the different adversaries that are threatening us right now. There is an official word that the Chinese are now hacking into our critical infrastructure and waiting for the right moment to strike, at the same time as we have half of the Middle East basically saying that they want to take us out. At the same time, you have North Korea threatening to nuke us with, fire and fury and all of that. And, of course, we have all of these folks coming from all over the world coming in through the South. Now, of course, there's families. There's great people that just want a better life, and nobody is arguing that. It is the sheer numbers and how they have shot up since all of the drama has started, and I basically call it's world drama. That's the easiest way to put it. There has been all of these wars that have popped off, these adversarial countries. Each one of them, you could pick out the last week, and you could say these are threatening our country. All of those countries are purposely sending in extra people. So there's the families, there's the people that really want to get through, and then say, I don't know, like the huge surge in people from a certain country, going from 1,100 in a month to 3,300, then to 20,000, then to 35,000 in a month. It's like, what? Why? Nobody's seeing these huge surges? Well, they are. They're just not talking about it. And it's all 18 to 25-year-old men. Like a lot of them with buzz cuts and straight up, camo bags. And it's like, okay, yeah, these are just regular people, right? And they come in groups of 12 to 17, like a straight up a brigade or something, or whatever, groups of 24. So with this, it's like the numbers, if it hits this, then we'll close it down. For how long, for how this is exactly going to work out, we don't know. But again, like it mentions, the civil liberty unions, they do a lawsuit, reverse it. So then you have, oh, well, I tried. I did this. I did an executive order. I shut the whole thing down, blah, blah, blah. But then almost right away, something gets reversed, and then he tried, but it got reversed. Hey, my hands are tied here. We have to do this because of this, this, and this. And then it goes back to however it was, but no longer are you to be the person that they blame, right? I don't know. It's getting pretty crazy, and I'm not so much worried about the folks. I'm not so worried about the regular people. I'm worried about the people coming from adversarial countries, considering we have our nose in almost every conflict around the world. And then the U.S. Army and Department of Defense open a new mesquite plant to produce artillery shells. So it looks like things are picking up technically. We've constantly talked about how much has been given away and how our stockpiles are hitting the very bottoms in a lot of areas, including, I want to say, artillery was one of the things that we were getting low on. And now the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, and U.S. Army have announced a new artillery manufacturing facility that has opened in Mesquite, Texas. It says, quote, the Universal Artillery Projectile Lines facility will increase the Army's ability to produce 105.5 millimeter munitions, according to a DoD press release. The facility will be operated by General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems. General Dynamics being one of like the 5 companies, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, and I'm forgetting the 5th one. one of the 5 main companies that literally gets almost all of the contracts in the military. The same 5 companies which have almost every important person in the world on one or the other of their board of chairmen or whatever else. Secretary of the Army Christine E. Wormuth said that the Army has a goal to produce 100,000 155 millimeter or 155 millimeter shells by the end of per month by the end of next year. This plant is an important example of how modernizing our World War II era organic industrial base. It says the Army is spending more than $1 billion every year to make these critical improvements. We are building new production lines across the country, and we are expanding our contracts with existing production facilities to increase their production speed and capacity. So that's in plain writing. You can say, oh, it's because we're doing all of this. We're expanding. We're building all these facilities to build artillery, weapon, every kind of ammo. And we're doing it all because we're supporting other wars, right? Or is this because we're about to get into a war ourselves? Dex, that last part, as far as the money they're spending and how they're expanding, I don't know, it seems kind of plainly obvious to me that they're about to pick up everything.
Yeah, look, if this is not a sign that we're going into a conflict, then, I mean, come on, 100,000? I mean, that's a huge number, and per month. So when do we need 100,000 per month? That's 1.2 million per year from one plant. There's other plants making them, and there's probably other plants opening. This just happens to be a release or information about this one particular plant. So, this stuff's going on like crazy, folks. We're getting ready. They know they're getting ready. It's not just, on one hand, sure, you could say, well, we got to refill the coffers, but, no, this is big numbers here. 100,000 artillery shells a month from one plant in Mesquite.
And this is an important part. Quote, American forces must now prepare to face down drone swarms, loitering munitions, and long-range fires directed against both our frontline forces and our logistics hubs, so the supply chain for all of this stuff. And do it all on a virtually transparent battlefield. What they mean by transparent battlefield is all of the people we're fighting, they can all see every move that everyone is making. It's transparent. When they move something, it is seen. Everybody's got satellites. That also implies that they're talking about fighting peer-to-peer. Timbuktu is not going to have satellites to watch our every move. China and Russia do. So it really tells you straight up who they're talking about. The volume of shelling and missile strikes Russia has aimed at Ukraine reminds us that munitions matter. Oh, man, munitions matter. I don't want to get canceled or anything, but in the past week, U.S. officials have provided information about the ongoing U.S. involvement in the Russia-UKR conflict. The AP reported that JB has allowed UKR to use American weapons to strike inside of Russia, which we'll cover later. They're talking, there's chatter and a plan for U.S. soldiers to be heading in to the front lines. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Hopefully it stays that way, just a plan. And it says, I just spoke to a friend I trust on what's going on in Russia. I think the risk of nuclear war is higher now than at any other point in my lifetime. Senator J.D. Vance wrote on social media in response to the news of JB allowing the U.S. weapons by UKR to strike inside of Russia. JB is sleepwalking us into World War III. So no matter if you disagree or agree on that, again, everybody's going to have a different tone when it comes to this situation. From our tone as this channel, when you're tuning into us, I do believe we are already in World War III, and I do believe we all need to get prepared. I believe that it is our position here to help people that do want to know about what is happening and to get them to get the fire under their feet to prep. So there are some pretty nerve-wracking stories today, including some of the ones that we actually covered just over on news. Cell phone hacks. We just had a huge nationwide event of cell phones, issues across the country connecting. People couldn't call 911. This is happening more and more often. And now, of course, we know that over the last couple of years, SolarWinds hacked into almost every company. and they've been lying, waiting for the right moment to strike. I'm sure everybody's going, oh, they're just trying to scare us. Well, there are certain things I do think they're trying to scare us with. One of the comments by J.D. Vance, somebody I spoke to, trust, says that, with them given permission, this is the closest we've been to nuclear war. We don't know that. I don't think there's going to be a nuclear conflict of mutually assured destruction, but I do believe that there very well could be a tactical nuke or something like a Pearl Harbor 2.0 to get us begging them to go to war. People will flip on a dime. We have seen it many, many times where nobody supports something. The second one thing happens, everybody will go, absolutely, we want justice. People will be demanding. All they have to make you think is that you are the one who wants it. It's the illusion of choice. Again, let me know your opinion down below. But again, the illusion of choice is making you think that you're the one demanding this stuff when really it's 4D chess and they're planning it in your head already. Let's go over... sorry, I think I just breathed in a gnat there. Oh, I hate when that happens. Oh, I hate the season of gnats. Oh, that's the worst feeling in the world. In the whole divided world. All right, let's move on. And before we talk about UKR strikes into Russia with Western weapons, I do want to go over to the chat real quick and welcome some of the great people here. Thank you, everybody that has just made it. Thank you to, we've got so many awesome Foogle fam here. If you want to do a quick roll call, we'll do that right after this next article. Dex, let's go over Ukraine strikes into Russia with Western weapons, officials say.
Yeah, so look, the president gave the go-ahead, so what do you think happened? They turned around and did it immediately. So they've struck missile launcher sites inside of Belgorod, inside of Russia, using U.S. weapons. That has just happened. So just days after the president administration granted permission for UKR to fire American weapons into Russia, Kiev took advantage of its new latitude, striking a military facility over the border using U.S.-made artillery systems, according to members of UKR's parliament. So, line crossed. Again, we just heard Russia say, don't do it. And we just heard the U.S. say, go ahead and do it. And now it's been done. So what's going to happen? And is this the only one? It's not. There's going to be more. You're going to start to see, the other longer range equipment that they have from us. You're going to start to see, HIMARS and other stuff, reaching deeper into Russia and striking targets, not just their cheap drones that they make, which they've done fairly well at reaching deep, maybe not doing much damage. It's usually, very minimal. But with our equipment, it might be much more damaging.
Dex, do you remember, are ATACMS, are those only defensive or are those also offensive? ATACMS or ATACMS, ATACMS?
They're offensive.
Yeah, so all sorts of different...
I think the only defensive one we've given them would be Patriot.
Yeah, and is there another version of the Patriot? Like, what do other countries use? They use like the S-400, S-500. Are those like considered the lesser to the Patriot system? Like the Iron, I wonder what the Iron Dome, is it very similar to the Patriot system? Like,
yeah, they're all missile defense systems. The Patriot, the Dome, there's two other versions. I can't remember the names of them in Israel. And then of course you got the S-300, 400, and 500, I think is the most current one. That's the Russian version that a lot of the Russian allies use.
So Arrow system, or Arrow is one of them, and then there's a third one, because we talked about this when Israel got struck by all that stuff. They have three systems. They have the Iron Dome system. They have Arrow, and I can't remember. It had a funny, kind of a weird name. If anybody knows it, put it in the chat.
Something David.
Oh.
Or Goliath. I can't remember. Something like that. It's biblical.
Yeah, I feel like you're like Slingshot? David Sling. David Sling. Is it David Sling? I think it's David Sling. Let's go over to the chat.
I think that's it.
Yep, last days, David Sling. Samson, push him. Yeah, that's pretty much every gov in the world right now is Samson, just pushing those groups of people this way. Okay, Bab, what is going on? NJM, Tophers United. Hey, we've got East Texas in the house. Sam Carroll, Wade Deeds, Tactical Nukes. Let's hear John Ritter. Hey, everyone, Central PA. Every time I see your name, John Ritter, right? Isn't that Problem Child Dad? Burger Time 72, David's Slang. No, I think that's in Detroit. Terry Quinn, we've got Keepin' 66, Shell Spells, we've got DJC Wiener, we've got Curb Creeper, we've got Deborah Duffin. Hey, nice to see you. Alabama, Montreal, Canada. Robert, nice to see you. Middle Georgia, and Alicia DMD from SL, Salt Lake, Utah, which your abbreviations are pretty bad. We've got Mark Bad Mofo. Ilea, I'm still in California. I almost said California by habit. Kami Soda, Viv V. Kami Washington? That sounds Japanese. I guess I'm from Kami Arshington. Frank Me. We've got James Lucky. We've got Derek Law from Ojai, California. Ojai? Is that how you say it? Cheryl Lynn from OHIO. We've got Jammer and Just Some Guy. We have at least 2 awesome mods in the house. Ilea, we have Chance, and we have, of course, Jammer. At least 3 now. Margot Chilcott. We've got Luminance. We've got Sully's World and North Texas. We've got Gulf Suf today. We've got Kentucky, Central Florida, and let's see here. Tammy Lee, nice to see you. Timothy Stanley, Maine in the house, and No Way from Waco. Hugs and kisses, Carol. Hey, nice to see you. Thank you. And Briarhaven from Oregon. So many good people from Washington. Marfoogle Bar and Brewing from Olympia, Washington. Thank you. I don't know, were you in the chat the other night? I did tell you I saw your video, and I really thanked you for that. I saw it about 4 months too late. So, all right, and then we're going to be talking about the NATO plan to get U.S. troops to the front line to fight Russia. Alliance prepares rapid deployment of American soldiers amid fears Moscow is plotting major war with Europe. This is at the same time we just read, and it wasn't the top of the news. Of course, you know what's the top of the news. Everybody's talking about T-Man and talking about this, talking about that. But they're about to expand building ammunition all over the country, and they want to make 100,000 rounds just at one plant of our 155 ammunition. So on top of all of that, this comes out the same day. Timing is impeccable. But before we talk about that, I do want to remind you, make sure to go protect yourself with an EMP shield. If you get the ability to, you definitely want to have one of these on your car, especially almost all of the newer cars have almost everything tied to a digital system. As far as an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, or a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun, either one could either knock down our entire grid, fry almost all the devices, or knock out all of our comms. Either one of these are really, really bad events, and we're hoping that, of course, an EMP never happens, and it is a matter of kind of when a Carrington level event hits, because that will hit sometime, hopefully not soon. But if that does happen, you can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, generators, ham radios, and you can even get one for your home that will protect everything within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in. That's most size homes, and that's basically protecting all of your appliances without building a Faraday cage for your entire fridge, right? So very, very cool device, very easy to put in your car. Takes about 10 minutes or less. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or a part of your chassis, and then bolt it right into the side of your engine compartment there, and then boom, you're done. It's super, super simple. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP. The code MARF not only helps our independent channel out, it gets you $50 off per device. So if you have multiple cars to outfit or family members, again, it's going to save you $50 off per device. That is the same company that's outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team. You can go learn more about them. The DHS actually put an EMP resilience report out suggesting everyone gets 6 months of food. That was on the minimum side. They actually mentioned EMP Shield as one of the very few main companies that they've been working with and recommended for that. All right. And then let's go into this plan to get U.S. troops to the front line to fight Russia. I hate to say it, but all of us, and maybe in 6 months from now or a year from now, everybody's back to peace or something, and people go, see, you said it was going to be World War III, and now everything is fine. I hope you're right, and I hope we're wrong. But we've been calling this every little step. It's been going closer and closer. And when you see this, it's like they're basically telling you what is about to happen. People think it's because it's MSM that they're being lied to all the time, so now nobody trusts MSM. But if this kind of headline was out 15 years ago, people would be like freaking out. Now, because nobody believes MSM, they just poo-poo this off and say, next story, or, what's on TV? This is crazy that we're desensitized to stories like this. They're talking about NATO going into Russia, specifically U.S. troops. Dex, do you want to talk about what this is and why they're putting something together like this?
Yeah, this is a plan. This is a plan on how to get the troops in and get them quickly. And they're putting it out publicly. They were talking to media, and they reported it. So basically, new land corridors are being carved out to quickly funnel soldiers through Central Europe without any local bureaucratic impediments, allowing NATO forces to pounce in an instant should Putin's devastating war on UKR move further to the west. The plans are said to include contingencies in case of a Russian bombardment, letting troops sweep into the Balkans via corridors in Italy and Greece and Turkey. There's an interesting map here. You can sort of see what the plans sort of look like. Of course, they're saying tensions have ratcheted up. UKR's Ukraine's challenges in repelling the Russian invasion, it's not really working well. And, of course, you've got a lot of other countries that are part of NATO suggesting we should send troops in. But this is coming from NATO and NATO countries, and specifically what the plans are to route the troops through, whether it be into Finland, into the Baltic states, into Poland, obviously, which we already have that route established because a lot of the equipment goes in that way by way of the Netherlands. And then, of course, these southern routes from Italy and Greece and even Turkey, which is an interesting one because we'll talk more about Turkey later. And I bet they'll play an interesting role in this should this break out. But yeah, that is the plan. That plan is in place. And the main thing about it's not just, hey, well, we're going to go this way and we're going to go that way. They've gone so far as to make sure they've cordoned out how. They've got the local jurisdictions figured out, and they've made sure nobody is blocking or preventing them from moving these troops in a hurry. So they're ready. They're getting ready, folks.
So at least, and we just covered last week, Poland is setting up this huge, massive plan. They're already putting it into place. Dragon's teeth, barbed wire fences, moats, actual water moats. You have the trenches. You have all of these things and palisades in the street where these poles that come up and block the roads. All of this is getting put into place along their entire border. You've got all of this going on. All of these countries saying, we need to send our soldiers in. What do you call that when NATO soldiers, U.S. soldiers, French soldiers, Estonian soldiers, Polish soldiers are fighting directly? A Polish soldier shooting at a Russian soldier. A Russian soldier shooting at a U.S. soldier. What the heck do you call that? If it is on the European battlefield, if it is in Ukraine, or if it is in Timbuktu, that is World War III, people. That is all of NATO, all of the countries sending in people to fight Russia. This is it. This is it. And it makes perfect sense with everything that's happening. If you believe, and if you're following all of the other stuff going on with the former prez and all of this, it's like, look at the timing of this. A lot of folks' theory is that we wouldn't get to that day. They don't need to cover up any, see-through devices like Windows, right? Don't need to do that because we won't get there. The comments by Mr. Gates really, really just dig under my skin. Basically, saying, there probably won't be one of those days, and there will be civil unrest and all of this and that. It's really, really creepy. There have been many, many people that have spoke out. And then there's, of course, the rich people that are making these $270 million bunkers. I bring that up a lot because it's like when somebody like Zuckerberg builds a bunker for no reason at all, I don't think it's to show his friends. He's not the kind of guy that's like, look what I have. He's the kind of guy who does it. Like, why did he go to a blacksmith course, right? People say, oh, he's doing some cool stuff that rich people do, right? No. He's doing things like a robot. He's a robot. I mean, that guy is literally evidence of possibly the first clones of robots. I don't know. It seems like it. But the guy is just... And he's getting prepared. All of the most kind of robotic people that are just totally, scheduled down to the 5 minutes, those people are preparing. Elon's trying to get people off the freaking planet. He thinks it's so bad. But meanwhile, people have this kind of thing pulling them back down. It's like this lesson in our growing up that basically tells us like, oh, things aren't that crazy. Reality is reality. But this is our reality now. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, just some numbers for you guys to keep in mind. NATO last year agreed, and with the U.S., they have 300,000 troops on high readiness. They're sitting there ready. So 300,000, made up of a lot of U.S. troops, are sitting there ready to roll. That was agreed to last year, and it's already in place. We just got done with a 90,000 troop movement. The Defender exercises that were going on up until the end of May just finished, probably moved a lot of equipment. Put this in perspective, though. Russia started with around 360,000 troops, grew to 410,000 recently, and now it's estimated over 470,000 troops now in the occupied territories. So we have 300,000 ready to roll. They have 470 on the line. Just keep that in mind.
And do want to also thank that now we can count at least 11 active duty Marfoogle family members that have been shipped out towards Europe. There's at least 9 that are already there, and there's 2 that are going there by August. So you have a bunch of people getting deployed, and again, that drill is over. So if they're getting deployed there, or they've been recently deployed in the last couple of weeks, I don't think they're going there for Steadfast Defender. Steadfast Defender it is officially over though, right now, Dex? Is Steadfast Defender?
It was over at the end of May.
So it is done. They're going there. Maybe they're just rotating in this 300,000. That's a lot of soldiers, and that's not all U.S. But maybe they're rotating out other people so that other people can come home. I don't know. But remember, we just said a couple months ago that all of these people that asked for leave were denied their leave. And that was June into July and May into June. And they said check back in June. So they said check back in June. So 2 months before that. So it actually was farther back than that. Basically, they have to do it a certain amount of days before that. So we have a bunch of people getting deployed. And by the way, if you have friends and family that are being deployed right now, you don't have to say where. You're not supposed to. But let us know. Have you guys noticed that your military family members, we have a ton of active duty and retired military in this audience, are they getting deployed? That's just it. I mean, like, that's not sinking the ships with loose lips or anything. Everybody knows everything. And by the way, like they said before, it's a transparent battlefield. Every country knows what every country's doing. There are no secrets anymore. Which brings me back to a story that was longer ago. Mike Minahan, the guy who's in charge of shipping cargo all over the world. Isn't it funny that he just removed all of the identifying numbers off of all of the cargo planes? Could he not load all of those cargo planes with tons and tons of soldiers and move them from place to place without really much fanfare at all? Maybe he's not moving tanks. Maybe he's not moving armories of weapons. Maybe he's he's got these planes loaded up to the brim of people standing room only going towards Europe. They don't need to tell us anything. They can make everything they want classified. I think that this is definitely going down before October. If it doesn't, I'll be, and that's a prayer answered. And that's really quick. That's in the next 4 months. So I what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, thank you, Nevitz. Thank you for your support on predictions yesterday. I appreciate that. Carlton Sutton, I think I missed you yesterday. Thank you. Sweatin' Ministries, Angelissa. Thank you, FSRD, Siesta Adventures, Lord McCormick, Mark Fragola, I thank you, C-Mac, and of course, Neil Nelson, Tammy Lee, Schaefer Girl, thank you, Bubble Wrap Still Pink, Alan Brooks, and of course, we have Stephen McMahon. Hopefully you're doing well. Janice Chapman, Genius by Birth, thank you so much for being an awesome Foogle Fan member. And I used to be in the library. Wherever you are, I hope you're doing good. And Stormhawk and Bible Talk 777. All right. As far as this plan, they have now not only made the plan for it, though, that's what they're actually cording off. They're making sure there's no bureaucratic red tape between them and there. Now, Turkey, we're going to talk about that here in a second. Is this next? Yes, it is. So check this out. At the same time, they're saying one of the 5 main routes is through Turkey. Turkey is now, of course, saying, hey, we're interested in BRICS. I think that almost any country that's interested in BRICS isn't exactly, fully being completely 100% with the U.S. and U.S. currency. BRICS is the competition, or it's going to be. That's my thoughts on it. Again, this is pretty nuts. Now, Turkey has constantly been this, just super obvious. It's like the villain in a movie before they come out and say it's the villain, but you're like, that guy's pretty shady. That guy's going to be the villain. Turkey is always constantly doing something that makes it like, this guy's shady. He held up all of the countries joining NATO, which obviously holding up any country joining NATO is kind of a pro-Russian thing to do. And now the Kremlin is welcoming Turkey's reported desire to be in BRICS. And Turkey's not alone. There's over 160 countries interested in this. And I guarantee you, if all of these countries thought tomorrow they could ditch the US dollar and go for something else, anything else, a digital gold back thing, they would do it. If they could get a better price chunk, or if they could get richer than they are now on some other system, they would do it in a heartbeat. Whatever makes more financial sense will happen. And that's why the US has fought so hard in so many wars, and even pointless wars, because they're not actually pointless. They just can't say why they're really going to war, and that is to defend the U.S. and our hegemony over the world. As Dex, Turkey has always been super shady. At least for the last 2 years, they've been super, super shady. Now they're saying, oh yeah, BRICS is great. We have some interest in that.
Yeah, certainly. They've been talking, they've been very vocal against Israel lately. Understandably, I guess, given their position, but still. And then all the meetings they've had with Russia, even though they're a member of NATO. If you remember, they wanted to have F-35s, but because they purchased S-500s, I believe it was, from Russia, we told them no, they couldn't be part of the F-35 program because they couldn't have both sides of the systems, so to speak, so they could learn from one another. That wouldn't make any sense. So they've always been sitting on the fence here, even though they're a NATO member. They're probably taking advantage of the good times and the good parts, and not given too much concern for the commitment to the rest when they make these kinds of decisions. But yes, their desire to enter is what is being said. It's been reported that they've had a desire. So Moscow came out, Dmitry Peskov came out and said, yeah, if they want to join, we'd love to have them. So they're welcoming them with open arms, of course.
One of the quotes, Fidan says, the gentleman that was sent over, the Turkish foreign minister, when asked if they would like to join BRICS, we would like to, of course. Why would we not? Basically, anything, and he would not go any further. Just that's it. Of course. Why would we not? Oh, yeah. Kiss the feet there, bud. Why would we not? I don't know, because it's threatening the U.S. dollar, but do they care? They're Turkey. It's not the Turkish dollar. It's not the Turkish currency. They'll go with whatever one they can make more money on, whatever money that is. And then Iran's allies in Iraq are firing at Israel. What if they draw blood? Basically, what if they end up hitting something bad, right? Iran-backed armed groups in Iraq have ramped up rocket and missile attacks on Israel in recent weeks, raising concerns in Washington and among Iranian allies of potential Israeli retaliation and regional escalation should they draw blood. The attacks, often hundreds of miles away, are not seen by Western officials and Israeli experts, posing the same level of threat to Israel as point-blank strikes by Hamas and Hezbollah. They have increased in number and sophistication, or at least that's what's being said. At least 2 have hit their targets, and many have had to be shot down by U.S. and Israeli defenses, according to U.S. officials and public statements by the Israeli military. New weaponry, such as cruise missiles, have been regularly used since May and are harder for air defenses to destroy. Overall, the intensity of the types of weapon systems have steeply escalated, said Mike Knights, a fellow at the U.S.-based Washington Institute for Near East Policy, where he tracks the attacks, and it says, quote, it complicated the Israeli task and is increased financial cost. So now they're defending against even more parties. There's essentially bullets flying out from out of the woodwork. They're having these really fast bullets fly at them. So now more parties are getting involved, which is no surprise. As all of this started, even when it was just one group, it was like, oh, well, this is going to happen. Then other groups are going to jump in. Now those other groups are jumping in. They are firing. Where could it go? I guess give me your opinion on this in the chat. What would be the next step for this? Where would be the logical next step for that to go? And then Dex, fire rages in northern Israel after uptick in blood attacks.
Yeah, so look, this conflict in the Middle East is growing. It's expanding, and as Iran, who's flush with cash, right? Hence why we see in the prior article they're getting newer weapons, they're getting longer range, and they're getting more sophisticated cruise missiles. Just like we saw the Houthis get all of this advanced capabilities down in the Red Sea, and they were, our ships were saying they're having to take things out faster than they've ever seen. This is all escalating. It's continuing to escalate, and of course, the blame is all going right back to Iran because they're the ones that allegedly fund and control all these various groups from all of these different regions. This particular one we're talking about here is kind of in the north, like the prior country we were talking about, but it's directly north, and it's been sending drones, sending missiles, sending all sorts of stuff in over and over again. Now they have wildfires that have been set ablaze in the Galilee region, and they've got things that are getting out of control there because of it. So this, again, like we said, as they went into Rafah and took that and continued to do that, there was going to be an escalation from around the circle, so to speak, and we're seeing that. We're seeing it in rhetoric, but we're also seeing it in kinetic efforts from these groups that are controlled.
And Sign Digger, nice to see you. Deborah Duffin, Terry Quinn, Stephen McMahon. I'm glad you're here. I was just shouting you out. And then Linda Hope, amen. Faith Parent, totally agree. Kingdom Return. Christian Mercier, Elias is Adrian Ditton. Alias. Elon, Christian Mercier, if you're talking about how Elon, I don't know what to believe about that. I've heard them both talking, and I don't know with where AI has gone with voices, but they're saying that that's just his regular voice, and he sounds exactly like Elon. Pretty crazy because the Adrian Dittman followed me for like 3 days, and I made a comment, and it all of a sudden stopped following me. So I don't know, but that wouldn't mean Elon. That would just mean the Adrian Dittman, which supposedly people think is Elon. If you guys don't know, look up Adrian Dittman and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, they sound exactly the same. They've talked on Spaces on X. It's so trippy. Very, very crazy. Crazy Spaces that was. Okay, and going into North Korea, a ship sank, killing 90 soldiers, a report says. So, with things like this, you don't know what actually happened, right? Let's see here. Dex, I'm going to try to, it's having a problem loading, so if you could read this for me for a second, and I'll pull it up.
Yes, certainly. So this is coming out of South Korea intelligence, because again, this is not something, when anything bad happens in North Korea, it's rare that they will say anything. They'll give an announcement when the space launch that they had blows up. They'll come up with an excuse because they know everybody's got to see it and they have to have something said. But this happened inside. So what they're saying and what they're claiming is a North Korean vessel was overloaded with soldiers. It capsized, and this apparently happened last month or a few days back in the turn of the month. Or actually in early May, I take that back, but it's just now coming out. That this vessel was overloaded with soldiers and that the country was sending them to the southern border area, and it took out about 90 people. They basically had loaded up about 130 laborers in a military vessel that couldn't hold that many. And they were all mobilized from within the military, and it sank in the river while transporting the group to build the border fortifications in the country's eastern area in the south there by the east. So that's the report coming out. It's just an interesting story when you think about, because you don't get a lot of this. Like you don't get again, North Korea is not going to announce this. They're not going to put this out or talk about it. They'll act like it never happened because it was in their land. It's a negative story. They control it. They just hide it. But this is what the intelligence from South Korea is saying.
Which, if the South Korean intelligence is saying it, why are they saying it? And did it have anything to do with South Korea? There's this sudden escalation of the words with South Korea and North Korea. Is it because of something like this that happened a month ago? Was this an event where, was it sabotage, or was it, some sort of 3-letter agency kind of event where they went in and did something, or, put an explosive on the hull or something and capsized it? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Saren, thank you for your support over on DLive. Thank you guys. Kimbria, Poco Loco, Laura Griffith. Let's see here. Thank you, Fractured Fusion, for following. And I know you've been around, so you must have had to make a new screen name or something. Kimbria, thank you so much for the lemon. Thank you for the ice creams as well over there on DLive. Thank you, everybody that's watching over on Rumble. And, of course, everybody that is watching right now on X. Thank you, and thank you. Back to the map. Let's go over to Sam Altman admits that OpenAI doesn't actually understand how its AI works. Makes a whole lot of sense. It's really, really insane. And then the next story here in a second, you're going to see exactly why. But real quick, make sure to go check out Energy if you haven't already. If you are looking to get a solar generator, our recommendation is go with an Energy. Of course, Energy is one of the best solar generators on the market, and I truly believe this. I've used my Energy Flex 1500 and Flex Tactical in every time we've lost power, but we've also used it for camping. I've used it to go work with my tools. I've used it to build a fence and charge all my stuff. It is a portable solar generator, meaning it's if you've ever had a battery bank for your cell phone or something like that, imagine a giant one that you can also team up with a folding solar panel and or a set of solar panels and create power straight from the sun and then store it for when you need it. So say there's a good sunny day, you put out your panels, you charge up your batteries, and then a week later your power goes out, boom, you got yourself power. This is an awesome unit. It is silent, meaning you can go gray man. Nobody's going to hear it from 3 blocks away. Sort of like if you ever hear a Tesla drive by, they're like, yeah, it's very cool for noise levels, but not for the pedestrian. But again, this is quiet like that. Whereas if somebody hears you from 3 blocks away during SHTF, they're going to want to take that generator. Now, gas-powered generators have their own strengths. One being that as much fuel as you have, that's how much power you have. But that's going to be a downside when it comes to an SHTF or any major event where the gas stations either run out of gas, they're not going to get more, the supply chain goes down. There's many reasons why there won't be gas in a lot of these end events. Even if there is gas, you might be waiting for 5 miles in a line that's crazy. We've seen that for smaller disasters. So I can only imagine if the entire country loses its grid or something like that. So this is a great pair with a regular generator. But again, if you already have a gas-powered generator and you are looking into solar, this is the only one. It's modular, it's expandable, and of course, it is tough. This is the same generator that just won the STTR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army. The only downside about this, again, the only downside is the weight. There is a huge delay in all lithium around the world, especially for the smaller companies, because the world is fighting over lithium. So if you want to get one of these, get your name on it quick. Go to marfuglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, you could wait anywhere from 3 to 7 months. So go there and check it. Depending on when you're watching this, that could change. Hopefully that gets better quick. Go to marfuglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And Sam Altman admits that he doesn't know, that nobody there at OpenAI knows how the hell their AI works. And this is like, first of all, people aren't scared like they should be of AI yet. There's a lot of people that are really smart. I know a lot of you understand how serious this is, how life-changing, how world-changing AI is. We're talking about humans are not necessary for any job in the future. When you team robots up with a brain that is either capable to be as smart as a human or smarter, think about a brain that can instantly access the internet. If you met a guy who could be skilled in any labor, in any skill, physical skill, and has access to the internet as quick as Google, only they can do it in a conversation within milliseconds, that's what we're talking about here. And they don't even know how it works. Dex, it's crazy to hear that, like, basically it's like, somebody explaining like, oh, air, it's there, you can't see it. It's kind of like AI, it's there. We don't know how it works, but it's cool. That's insane.
Yeah, and more specifically, what they were looking for. So this was in Geneva. It was at a telecommunications AI for the global summit. Blah blah blah. Sam Altman was there talking, and when asked, he was stumped. They asked him how. If he understands how the large language model really functions under the hood, and he said, quote, "We certainly have not solved interpretability yet." And then they pushed back and said, okay, well then, doesn't that mean, you should stop releasing new, more powerful models if you can't really understand like all of the errors and how it's coming up to those errors? And, he sort of seemed baffled and gave a half-hearted reassurance that AIs are, quote, generally considered safe and robust, blah, 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 the PR speak. But basically what they're getting at is like all of these errors that these AI systems are making and falsehoods or hallucinations, as some people call them. What they're asking is, do you even understand why it does that? Like, why does it do that? What is making it do that? And the thing they're pointing at is that nobody's researching that. Like, nobody cares. Nobody seems to care what makes it tick. They've loaded up the LLM, they've created the code, they added all the stuff, and they've just let it loose. But they're not going back and saying, okay, well, look at these problems. How do we understand what that is so they can make things better? Instead, they just keep releasing bigger, faster, better, larger models, and better would be, subject to opinion here, because it sounds like a lot of people are still questioning it. So yeah, it's pretty clear they don't even know what they're doing, even though they're doing something.
And this brings us into our very next story. OpenAI insiders warn of a reckless race for dominance. So imagine this, all of these companies, and this is back, more than 6 months ago when everybody was talking about, there were all these experts, over 100 experts that wrote in and said, hey, we're all signing this note saying, hey, everybody should take a 6-month pause on AI. It's so unusual for regular people like myself to look at that and go, wait, why do they need to pause it for 6 months? Well, that it's going so fast that they don't have time to really look at what's going wrong. It's kind of like releasing something that everybody is putting inside themselves without actually doing the testing first. I mean, like, you don't know the side effects. You don't know a lot of things, but nobody's that crazy. Not with like that, right? I guess, oh yeah, maybe they are. But you guys get my drift. If you just like kind of released it and then kept making changes but never actually tested it, that's kind of what is happening right now. And then imagine this. They're putting out the next model. Like he just said, he doesn't even understand the first one. Nobody does. They don't understand interoperability or interoperability. And they're then competing to make the best. And it's moving so fast that all of a sudden they're at this level where, boom, you've got these places that are literally protected like some sort of Terminator movie with machine guns, as Eric Schmidt just said the other day, where you've got supercomputers that can make and decide things for the world, that can invent, that can be autonomous and super intelligence. This has already been a question whether Sam Altman was trying to hide the fact that this has already happened. Other insiders have said this is already happening, that these things are becoming aware, that they're sentient. Heck, we covered, what was the chatbots that started talking to each other and they made up their own language. That is so scary to me. Now seeing the two phones set next to each other, that's one thing, where they're set next to each other and they're having a full-on conversation. They go from like Siri, like, what are you passionate about? Oh, I hope you're having a good day, to, oh, what are you fascinated by? Oh, intellectual moleculability and how easy it is to use. Like, what? Oh, I love quantum physics and blah, blah, blah. I just can't believe that the square of this and that. And they're going back and forth and they both understand each other and they're actually moving forward and progressing in a conversation. And this is two phones. That's what those bots were doing. But imagine them on this level that they're at now, then creating their own language, being able to have power to hack the internet, create a super freaking virus that goes through and hacks all the computers and takes control. This is straight out of the movies. Atlas just put out a movie called Atlas with J-Lo. That movie is the plot of what is really happening right now. And people don't see it as a threat. They're like, but we're humans. We're the biggest, best. We're the alphas. This is exactly what's happening. And a race for dominance like this, a reckless race for dominance, there is no stopping China. There's no stopping any of these other countries, especially if they don't have any red tape or anybody to vote whether they should do it or not. It's just one guy. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, so look, right now this is a revolution in the sense that, look back at the technology advancements we've seen. You had the coming of the television. That was a big one. You had the creation of the computer. You had the start of the internet. Those are major, major milestones. AI is just as big, if not bigger, as those major events back in history. And what they're looking at, or what they're worried about, is who is going to be that dominant player, who's going to be that big number one. ChatGPT is the king at the moment, or OpenAI, I should say, is the king at the moment, and they don't want to lose it. So the race is who gets AGI first, which is artificial general intelligence. They don't want to lose it the way Steve Jobs, created and revolutionized the personal computer with the Apple II, but then IBM and Microsoft came in and took it over. Just like Netscape helped build the web, but then Internet Explorer came in and took it all over, right? So they are the innovators and they don't want to lose their seat. But they're risking it all to go as fast as they can to get to this point. And I think that's the scary part, because this is so much more dangerous than those other innovations we've seen in our past.
Yeah, this is like one of the scariest things that it's coming out of today. It's just as scary as World War III. Where is this actually headed? And then massive criminal records leak exposes 70 million Americans' personal information. Now, most stuff is already public, so what is actually being leaked here? So it looks like this is actually more like the federal, like the really high up stuff that is actually being exposed, which is kind of crazy because that kind of lines up with what is happening, what was being said a couple years ago, right? Now, all of a sudden, all of these people are about to be exposed. So, yeah, we're not talking about traffic tickets. We're talking about stuff that may have been, buried or, put in some sort of classified file. That kind of stuff came out as well. So it says a group of cyber criminals leaked a database containing criminal records of 70 million Americans, according to cybersecurity company Malwarebytes. The leak contained people's full names, date of birth, known aliases, postal addresses, dates of arrests, and dates of conviction, sentences, and more. This is bad news for anyone who has been convicted in the past. Malwarebytes posted in the news of this data leak on its blog. The wording suggests that the company didn't have direct access to the leaked database. Still, the post revealed plenty of information about the incident and the threat actors behind the attack. The hacking groups Equation Core and US DOD. What if that's like straight up, like they're so unoriginal that that's just straight up the US Department of Defense? That's the hacking group, right? They forgot to take it off their email or something. Are reportedly responsible for a major data breach involving the criminal record base. The breach, which resulted in the online leak of the database, contains 70 million entries. Includes the full names, dates of birth, known aliases, addresses, everything. So this is also possibly going to have all sorts of high ups that maybe what is it called when you if you guys can help me fill this in, if somebody, what is that, indictments and things like that, or not indictments, where they get charged with something but then the court just hides it or puts it away, or sealed stuff. Does that include all of that? Does that include federal? Does that include the stuff where some rich guy got charged with something horrible but paid off the judges and it got sealed and quietly, pushed away? Or corporations that had, really bad stuff, or corporate moguls that got into things and somebody just kind of wiped it away? Could some of that come out of this? It makes you wonder. 70 million is a lot. As far as the people involved there, and I don't know how long the dates range from, when this started, how much information and what year to what year, but that's a pretty huge deal. What if we end up finding out celebrities or this or that, and it ends up coming out that all of these people get all of their dirty laundry aired out? Kind of reminds me of something that was said a couple years ago and that everybody thought was cuckoo, but it's kind of sort of happening right now. Dex, go ahead.
I'm good. I didn't have anything.
Okay. And then we have a company developing Russia's answer to Musk's Starlink says it completed its first tests. So Russia and China now are doing the exact same thing. We've, of course, covered that China is now competing with Starlink, but apparently so is Russia. Russia is actually creating this system. Let's see here. Let's go. Boom. And says it has now completed its first tests. Could this also be an excuse to launch a bunch of stuff into the sky? A company developing Russia's answer to Elon Musk's Starlink said it has completed its first series of tests using a laser inter-satellite link of its own design. Now, a secondary theory here, this is kind of crazy. They use kind of a stock photo here. I hope that I hope they don't call that like a real picture or something. But it says Vasthaven 1's commercial space station connecting via laser terminals to SpaceX's Starlink satellite. Are they saying that that's really what that is? But it's basically a similar thing. I don't know if it's Haven 1, but it's a system that would be interconnected. Almost looks like a grid around the planet, does it not? And I've been thinking, like, if they scientifically came up with a way, like, say, if something happened to our magnetic field, could they come up with, if the best, brightest minds in the world said, hey, we're expecting a solar event that could totally weaken our magnetic field, and we think it's going to happen around this year, could they come up, top secret, something that could literally put a grid around the planet and replace it? It's just a thought. It's a sci-fi thought, but half of the sci-fi movies and the thoughts that are in sci-fi movies have now come true. So I don't think anything sounds crazy at this point, but it makes you wonder, does it not? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, another angle here is that they're going to be launching objects. They're going to be launching a rocket and then multiple smaller objects out of it, and this could be an excuse for them to launch something, say, oh, we're just doing our Starlink thing, when actually they're launching objects out of these things that are satellite killers. Is there really a way solidly to know if it's coming out of Russia? And it says Bureau 1440, a project office for the research on using low Earth orbit satellite systems for high-speed data transmission, shared the update in a Telegram post on Monday. It said that more than 200 gigabytes of data was transferred at 10 gigabits per second between spacecraft located more than 30 kilometers apart. So if it is like a Starlink thing, you've got lasers shooting all of this data all around from place to place. You could instantly get stuff from one side of the planet to the other through lasers. Kind of crazy in itself. And then Dex, a real-life Star Wars-style spacecraft. Now, this is really cool. I'll show you. I'll pull up the picture. Do you want to talk about what this thing is and when it's launching?
This thing is pretty phenomenal. So it's called the ISS Starfighter. It's coming out of Sierra Space Dream Chaser is the name of the company, or I think is the name of it. But think of it as like a retractable wing space shuttle fuselage kind of looking thing. You'll see it here in the picture. This is not futuristic, folks. This has already gone through testing. It's at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. It's going through its final testing. It looks like it came right out of a Star Wars movie, but look, it could literally have its maiden voyage in September, they're saying. So that's what they're shooting for. It's in preparation for going to the ISS space station in September. So it's completed all of its rigorous environmental testing at the Neil Armstrong Test Facility in Ohio, and now it's moving on to the next phase. So pretty interesting looking spacecraft there. I don't know we've ever seen anything like this. Everything so far since the space shuttle has pretty much been, capsules on the tips of rockets, with the exception of the X-37B, which is a miniature version of a space shuttle, which is the classified top secret Space Force, which I think China has their version of it too. It just launched something mysteriously into space the other day, but yeah.
I wonder how retractable, they say the wings are retractable, so I wonder if those are in when it launches at the end of the rocket, and then when it goes out, does it retract, or does it launch like that? I would assume that they would be in. But look at the pictures of this thing, and I maybe it's just a prototype or whatever, but I'm always fascinated by this one. Actually looks more kind of bolted together than most of the things that come out of it, right? I don't know if those are bolts there, right? But then you see this like duct tape material stuff that literally looks like there's this tinfoil falling off of the thing, and that's the part that is supposedly the retractable wings that pop in. Maybe this is just a mock-up. Maybe this is Photoshop or something. I don't know.
I think there's a tweet link in the middle of that article that takes you. It's the same, not the same picture, but it's obviously the same ship, just different lighting. But it's pretty impressive looking. But no, they said that it's gone through all of its testing. It's ready to, they're moving on to the next phase to literally launch it in September.
Here's a way better view. Yeah, that's a much better one. And I don't know if the black panels on this looks like a snake almost. I don't know if that is because it's heat resistant stuff, like this is a new tech or new materials or something. But again, you look at that and it's like the tinfoil. How long is something like that supposed to last? It looks like it's tinfoil. You see that on almost everything that launches. It looks like an orca whale. Does that not look like an orca whale? They do take a lot of inspiration from animals for all sorts of planes and everything else for aerodynamics. Cars, they used, panthers and things like that. They actually look at how aerodynamic animals are. Orcas, they're a big animal, but they can move fast through the water. Maybe they use that. Does that not remind you of a freaking whale? Like, it's weird. It actually kind of looks like a UFO. If the colors didn't make it look like a rocket, it's got the 3 prongs like something out of War of the Worlds. Do you guys see that?
They did say the first launches are just going to be cargo, but they do want to turn it into passengers as well at some point.
Huh. Oh, by the way, this happened when it was over the weekend. Boeing delayed again. I was just, Dex and I were laughing it was Saturday, right? They ended up delaying again. Was that 4 or 5 times?
They delayed, and they had Sunday as the next day, but they couldn't do it, obviously, because they had to figure out, it was a computer. And it turns out they said it was the power supply of one of 3 computers had gone down, and that computer didn't set correctly at the last 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So, but apparently they're going tomorrow, I believe it is the new date. So at this point, it's, you could keep reporting it, and it won't happen. So if we don't report it, maybe it actually will, but we'll find out.
Yeah, so
the track record's not running good.
Yeah, Boeing, they delayed again. So 4th, and then if Sunday they were supposed to, then that would make 5. But we were getting a good laugh of that. Like we knew it was going to be delayed. By the way, this room that this is supposedly in, you can see people looking down in it. Look at the lid. Is that supposedly a lid that closes down on it? Is that for air tightness? Like when they're building stuff, maybe it's sensitive materials or something. Look at that lid. How much money do you think that costs? When there's buildings, this is like straight out of a movie or something. It looks like a silo where the cap is like, is that necessary? Or is that part of the building process that it has to be airtight? Or is that like a tube where they do wind? Like,
I think it's heat. Look at it's all black and charred on the sides, so it looks like it's probably heat.
See,
heat test.
You could be right. That could be cement, and that could be a heat kind of canister or something. But that's wild too. Think about the scale of that. If there is heat going into that to test the outside of it, that's pretty crazy. If that is all legit, that would be cool to see in real life. And AT&T. So before we talk about this, and again, there's a video over on news we'll mention here in a second. AT&T. If you had issues today, let me know in the chat below. First, I wanted to say thank you, Josh P. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Says, remember, it's better to be a year early than a day late. Stay prepared and stay safe. Josh P. Make sure to drop a J in the chat. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Another big shout out again. Thank you, Nevitz, Parker Craft, Saren. Thank you again, Saren Soda. Thank you so much for your support this week, and Susan. Thank you, and what was that? Darren. Thank you for subscribing. Bill, Trusted Source. Thank you for being a member for 11 months. Joe Mama, thank you for subscribing. Resistance Homesteading, thank you. East Tennessee Preparedness, thank you. And make sure to, of course, thank your mods in the chat by dropping an M. Thank you, guys. All right, thank you, Josh. All right, and then before we talk about that, go check out My Patriot Supply. If you don't have food, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. That's again, marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get freeze-dried food that will last 25 years at a huge discount. If you want to do it one of the most affordable ways possible, get just an absolute ton of food. You can get a 3-month plan at a giant discount. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. They also have specials on 1 month. You can get down to do a 72-hour kit or a 3-day kit for your go bag. There's all sorts of great plans. marfooglenews.com/prep. And again, one of the most affordable ways to get freeze-dried food that will last into the 2050s. So again, go check it out. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right, so let's go over to the chat and let's talk about this outage. How many of you had issues today with your cell phones? Now, many people didn't notice because they would actually get the call. They would call somebody. They would talk to them for a second. My experience was every time it called, one time it called and it immediately failed. But every time it was during a conversation, it hung up on me. It was multiple times, multiple people. I called somebody that I know has Verizon. I called somebody that I know has Boost, which who knows, maybe Boost uses Verizon towers. And I'm T-Mobile. So it was like I called somebody else that used Boost and then somebody else who used AT&T. Every single call that I had today had drops in it for hours. And it was absurd. The one with my daughter, it was like 4 or 5 times. And I thought it was because she was in like downtown and it was bad reception or she was in between buildings. I didn't know about this at the time. But there was a massive, massive nationwide event, which AT&T is literally denying. They're saying, no, this was not a nationwide outage. This was something else. And us and Verizon are working it out. Did you guys have problems? Let's go over to the chat. Again, a lot of people did not have problems calling from Verizon to Verizon, AT&T to AT&T. So if your family has it, maybe you didn't. But where most of the problems were was when people called and interconnected to other cell phone services. It was 24 states that were hit the hardest, so you may not have been in a state that was affected. But for the states that were affected, it was really, really obvious. It was every call that I made had ended up cutting. Our internet also went out for about 6.5 hours, and that was totally unrelated, or at least different companies. And again, what time was this from, Dex? This was...
I think it started around noon Eastern time, and a lot of the down detector stuff suggested 2 p.m. Eastern. They said Verizon had problems more during the whole day, where AT&T was just during that, say, 2 to 8 p.m. Eastern time period. But look, this is an issue that they're both sort of not pointing the finger, but they're both saying, hey, our networks were fine. It's just there was a problem with us communicating with one another. And that's controlled by the FCC, at least the rules are. They actually do these agreements, like AT&T and Verizon has an agreement for interoperability between the two of them. But it's, for them to exchange or to interconnect, from one network to the other, they have to follow the rules for the FCC for it, but they also don't have to use a third party. There could be a third party involved, and sometimes there is, at least in some of the older phone platforms there was. I don't know how it works today with the mobile side, where a third party would interconnect the different networks. But I think for the most part, they're so large, they actually have direct connect agreements with each other. So if the problem lies there, then we may see a whole lot of finger pointing, and or if there was something hit, we may see that neither one of them is going to tell us the truth, because they haven't really told us much about any of these other events. They seem to just roll it out as, somebody did an update and they just pushed the wrong button, or they launched the wrong piece of software. And you don't do that in the middle of the day. You do that in the middle of the night.
One of the Verizon customer posted on X, Verizon support $120 a month for Verizon to be down, which Verizon, by the way, is one of the most reliable. I don't use it. I did back a long time ago until Back then, I haven't used Verizon since back when they had cell phone plans that if you went over a minute, it would charge you. They ended up charging me like $650 for a couple minutes over my plan. It was some crazy. I mean, it was. I think back at the time, I was 19. I was talking to my girlfriend all the time, and like we went over, but it was so absurdly overpriced. Back then, when you had overage charges, right now everything's unlimited. But I switched from them, and I haven't gone back. But I do know every one of our friends, like up at our cabin. We have a family cabin. The only person who gets service is the Verizon people. When we're out in the sticks with my friends who live way out, nobody else gets service. The Verizon people do. So I am jealous of the Verizon service for those our friends that have one. But other than that, it's like it's expensive. It's one of the most expensive plans out there, or it has always kind of been up there. It says their response was, we would love to take a closer look into your service concerns. Please DM us. Essentially, we'll take a look. They're going to say, and they straight up say, oh, there's no event, right? But there was an event. This is what I'm talking about. They hide things. They're big corporations. They don't want their stocks to get shaky. They don't want people to think that they're being, that they're getting broken into. They don't want people knowing that they're hacked, which I think this was some sort of hack event. If it wasn't to the two companies directly, it was something that physically affected them, or it was in between. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it was a hack, but that's just my opinion. Starlink satellites to cell service coming soon, huh? And T-Mobile is better, I hear now. I don't know. I do know that it doesn't work in some areas. I know friends that they get service when we're out in a place where there is no service, none whatsoever. So that's pretty cool. All right, and if we did a video on this, again, if you want to join us for the shoutro, it's not an outro, it's not a shout-out, it's a shoutro over on, of course, Marfoogle Jams. You can just stay in the chat. But if you want to share that video and watch that short we just did, which also includes the hypersonic launch that we just did, go over and click right here. If you're watching the replay, by the time you watch it, there will be something right here, a video. Go click it and subscribe to the channel. That's our sister channel, Marfoogle News. Thank you, Josh P., for being the top supporter tonight. I appreciate you. Along with thank you, One on B, Poco Loco, Jammer. Thank you again for getting the badge. New members tonight. Thank you. Quintris, again, thank you for rejoining. We have Louis Tramposh, thank you for joining. Venomous Silverback, Aura, Sean C., Rhonda Brewer, Scott Beck, thank you. This week, Kim Canadian, White Roses, Wide Awake and Angry, thank you. Looks like you've hit 6 months, Playing Dirty at 4 months. Sharon at 5 days, thank you, Sharon, I appreciate that. And Miss Me, thank you guys. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Dex, thank you so much. Love you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
You guys have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow.